Hey everyone, welcome to episode 70 of the Marketing Mantra podcast. This is your host Sandeep Mallya from 99signals.com. In this special episode, I'm joined by Sheth, a former investment banking consultant turned digital content strategist. He worked in top investment banks and consulting companies like Goldman Sachs and Accenture for nearly 10 years before starting his own business. Currently, Neil is the founder of Bubbly, an SEO and content marketing agency, and Rightfully, a copywriting on demand service. He also loves to share content marketing, SEO, and social media tips on his blog, yourbrandfound.com. In this episode, Neil will be sharing actionable YouTube tips for small businesses. You'll learn about the kind of content you should create on YouTube, common YouTube mistakes you should avoid, and the best way to use YouTube to optimize your sales cycle. So, if you're a small business owner who would like to leverage YouTube as a powerful marketing channel for your business, this episode is a must listen. You'll find a lot of takeaways and insights that you can use to grow your YouTube channel. The interview with Neil is coming up next. Stay tuned. Hey Neil, thank you for being a guest on my show. It's a pleasure to have you today on the Marketing Mantra podcast.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this, Sandeep.
Likewise. For our listeners out there who haven't heard of you or are not familiar with your work, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, sure. I'm Neil Sheth, and I'm based in London in the UK. I have a family, a wife and two kids who keep me very busy. And, in a nutshell, my background's investment banking as a project manager. I did that for about 10 years. And on the side, a number of entrepreneurs will resonate with this. I was launching businesses and trying my hand at different things. And over time, I learned SEO, I learned content marketing, and I learned how to build a brand, position it online, and drive sales. And honestly, I fell in love with doing that and ended up starting a content marketing and SEO agency called Bubbly Digital in 2017. And in the middle of launching a copywriting on demand service called Rightfully. So that's now my full-time focus for the last 4.5 years.
At this content marketing agency, Bubbly, what is it that you do? Do you help people with content creation and social media marketing? And what kind of clients do you have? Do you have small businesses, large businesses?
Yeah, we work across the board, actually, across like very small businesses. It could be a local dentist to very large businesses who are based in like San Francisco and want to reach an international audience. Primarily, what we help our clients do is really around two things. One is how do we help them to get to the top of Google? Because obviously everyone wants to get to the top of Google in front of their future customers who are searching for them. And the other challenge we help them with is how to tell their stories, how to demonstrate their brand online, engage with their audience. So yes, it's a combination of helping them get to the top of Google, but also and the way we do that is actually telling stories and creating really good content for them. So that's what we've been doing under Bubbly for 4.5 years, and we're actually spinning out the content creation, the copywriting into a separate product and brand called Rightfully.
Okay. Tell me more about Rightfully, because that's something that is not launched yet, right? So is this going to be like an agency, or is it's a tool that you're making, which is like some of those content creation AI tools out there?
Yeah, so that might be like the second step, but the first step is very much similar to an agency or service. I would say it's a productized service.
Okay.
And it means our clients don't need to jump on to any large retainers. It allows them to give them basically full flexibility in increasing or decreasing their editorial team. So for instance, we had a client, we haven't officially launched, but we are working with clients as we speak who need our help. So for instance, we had a client a few weeks ago who said, "Hey, I just need a blog post. Can you just write this for us?" And so we created a blog post which was actually optimized for SEO, And then they said, hey, this is great. Can we now have this every month? Can we have 2 a month? And so, we are offering an ad hoc on-demand service, but also a subscription for service for a client who needs it.
Awesome. So let me deconstruct the whole process here. You said anyone can approach you, I mean, regardless of the size of their business, right? And you just gave an example of, say, someone coming to you for a blog post. What is the whole process that is involved here? How do you go about it?
So, depending on the client, they may need us to do our own research if it's not that technical, or we may need to research with them. So, we may need to interview them or take their notes or take their initial draft or any research notes. And that's our starting point. So, depending on the client, we either go one way or the other or both. And then, our writers, and obviously topic ideation is the start of this. We'll get into research, and then we'll start doing outlines and writing briefs to make sure that we are going in the right direction. We'll then start to write out the first piece, send it for review and approval, and then we'll get on to any feedback and revisions, and then we move into finalizing that piece. That client may need us to publish for them and source images and even do design, and other clients may not. So depending on what they're requesting, we can do the full end-to-end and publish it on their behalf and manage everything, or we hand it over to them and then they take it over.
And the objective is always to get them to the top of Google, to help them rank on page one, is it? That's the kind of content that you create. Is that always the aim, or is it just creating editorial content for them and then, just leaving it as it is? Or do you do some link building as well?
So this is a really good question. So as you know, Bubbly is very focused on getting clients to the top of Google, whereas Rightfully is very focused on helping clients create the content they need and want. That's highly engaging, high quality, and fast. So yes, a client can order SEO content, can order an SEO blog post, or order an SEO optimized service page, or copy that's optimized for SEO for their homepage. But actually, we've got 20 plus choices when we launch. And just to give you a flavor, we're going to be doing sales pages, social micro copy, email newsletters, a brand blog post. So not an SEO keyword led blog post. It could just be a brand blog post. We could be doing customer editorial interviews, about pages, home pages. We're really going across the full gambit of content, because that's basically what we've been helping our clients with. Actually grow in Google, you need to resonate with customers. You need to resonate with your users, and you need to keep them. And the best way to do that is to share your store, tell stories, share your own brand story, tell customers about or tell your future customers about customers you've already worked with through these customer interviews. Like this all helps towards building up your Google presence, right? Because what Google loves is it wants users to stick around, and so building a Google presence is actually is all about building a really good brand and telling the story of your brand really well. And so I would say SEO is a part of it, but is not all of it.
Right. It's really interesting that you're offering all these services, and I think there is a need in the market for these services. I like the fact that you're being very, very specific when it comes to the kind of content that you can create for different client needs. You have a very interesting background. I mean, you worked at large companies like Goldman Sachs and Accenture for close to a decade, if I'm not mistaken. And then you started your content marketing agency where you mostly cater to small businesses, and you help them with SEO and content marketing. So you've seen the best of both worlds. What I want to ask you is, what are the differences between, say, how a large company approaches the content creation process and how a small business approaches content creation process?
So I think when it comes to content creation and how small businesses approach it is, and I don't think for me, it doesn't differentiate between a small business and a large business, it really depends on the person running the show. So if you've got a bigger business with a digital marketing manager that doesn't understand content or SEO, or really their experience is based on paid ads, what you'll find with that person is they don't appreciate the need to be engaging or the need to
Mm.
have content that resonates and creates a flywheel for your brand, right?
Right.
So like for me, it's not really based on, the size of the business. It's really on the mindset of the person and the experience of the person and how open they are, and what
Mm-hmm.
they're looking. Um, because like we come across businesses that almost treat content as something they should create and a box they need to tick off. And that type of person never really understands how to integrate their content across all of their channels well, because they don't treat it with respect. And
Mm-hmm.
then other people who have a very small business and have seen the power of content and have seen the power of their conversions flying off the roof because their content's just
Mm-hmm.
so good. That type of person just really like um, is almost very anal with their content creation. They want to be very involved in the topic. They want to make sure their content like sounds like them, and their tone of
Mm-hmm.
voice and style really sounds like them. And that type of customer actually we tend to have the most fun with, and we end up
Right.
creating the best content because that person wants to be heavily involved. Like I had a conversation a few weeks ago with a really large business in the US, and they said, I said, yeah, this is how Rightfully is going to work. This is how we're going to create your content. And
Mm-hmm.
he said, Neil, we don't have time for it. The reason we're hiring you is because we want you to do everything. We don't want to be part of it at all. And, to an extent, I get it. Because, I mean, to be honest, the reason we're building Rightfully is because I've needed this myself. And that's also partly why we've built Bubbly, is because I've needed this myself. So I've always built
Mm-hmm.
things like myself. And for the first time, I've got my team. We were just talking before this interview how you are very particular about your content, and I've been like that on my own blog, Your Brand Found, for
Mm-hmm.
many years. But for the first time, I'm now getting help because I realize I can't do everything, and
Yeah.
so. But I still want to be involved, right? I still want to make sure the
Mm-hmm.
tone of voice is me. I still want to make sure the topics and the outline is correct. I want to be involved to that extent and even review everything. Whereas this business a few weeks ago said, no,
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to do anything. And so, uh, whilst yes, we're going to solve that problem. However, from that business's standpoint, I would say, look, if you're really looking to build your business, you got to be part of the voice that's creating your content. You got to like we can optimize your time to the point where you only need to spend 10 minutes giving us what you need and making sure that we're on the right track, but you still need to spend 10 minutes to get the best out of your content. I mean, 10 minutes is even quite low, right?
Right.
Um, so I find it's always a mindset thing as opposed to
Yeah.
the business, right? And I'm sure you've come across this as well.
Yeah. The reason I asked you that question is, like I said, I have a similar background. I worked with large media companies here in Bangalore before I launched my own digital marketing agency, and you hit the nail on the head when it comes to their mindset, right? And they're not willing to experiment with new things, and there's also a ton of hierarchy that is involved. So if you
Yeah.
want to write a blog post, it has to go through a certain level of approval, and it takes sometimes it can take up to 2 months to launch a simple 800-word blog post. So that's something that I've come across whilst working for these big companies. And after working with startups for over 5 years now, I've realized that they are willing to experiment and they know the importance of having a good blog, having a good business blog, and churning out content on a regular basis. So that's something that small businesses do really well, and I think that's an advantage that small businesses have over large businesses. They can really focus on content marketing. They can make it a very effective marketing channel for them. Whereas with say a large company, the example that you just gave now, I mean the company is just looking for instant gratification. And in that case, all you can do is run Google ads, Facebook ads for them and show them the kind of clicks and conversions that you're getting. So it's all instant gratification for them, and they're not willing to experiment with new marketing tools or channels or technology. So that's something that I've found in my experience. I just wanted to know if that resonates with you. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess
I've seen that along the way as well. And actually, what you find is you learn once you've published. You don't learn by hiding content and just talking about it internally. Or you
exactly.
need to publish it.
I agree with you there, 100%. I think it's Sheryl Sandberg who says done is better than perfect, right?
Yeah.
So it's you have to get your content out there and you can make changes along the way. I mean, just because you hit publish doesn't mean that you can't go back to the blog post and change it. You have to, in fact, it's best practice that you change it on a regular basis because freshness is really important and the information that you're putting out there that needs to be updated on a regular basis, especially if you're writing for, say marketing topics or
Mm.
SEO topics where you have so many algorithm updates happening, so many changes happening. So need to update your content on a regular basis. But yeah, if you just keep it in the draft, it's just not going to help anyone. Better that you get your, post out there and make changes along the way. Getting to the main topic, I wanted to discuss YouTube with you because for me here, YouTube has been a bit of an enigma. I've had a YouTube channel for like close to 3 years now. And while some videos get good engagement, there is a video that I have which has close to 35,000 views. At the same time, I have a video which has like 100 or 200 views. It's not been a very effective channel for me, and until now, I just have around 2,000 subscribers. I wanted to discuss YouTube with you because you have so much experience, creating YouTube content for your clients. So I really wanted to understand what is it that you are doing differently to gain engagement from YouTube and leverage it effectively. So again, talking from a small business perspective, what kind of content do you think small businesses should create on YouTube, and what's the level of research that is needed even before they launch their YouTube channel?
It's all about content that, and this is relevant to YouTube or any channel, but it's content that, when you're first starting on YouTube or any channel, um, I feel like you need to justify the need to create content on that channel. And everyone has their own justification levels. So your justification level might be, I need to hit 5,000 subscribers in order for me to justify this channel and be happy, right? Whereas with my own channel, under Your Brand Found, my justification was this content is going to be something I share on sales calls, or pre-sale, or just before we jump on a call. It'll be shared post-sales calls. It'll be shared on emails from potential customers, and I'll share it on my social channels like LinkedIn just to kind of tell people what I'm up to, right? And so what I've done is I've put the bar really low. Whereas when people put the bar really high, what you'll find is they're not really consistent and they lose interest and they lose motivation. But by easily putting the bar quite low, I knew I justified the channel for my use, right? Because I don't want to explain the same thing every day and all the time to on calls. That's also part of my justification. So, I've done a video on how we design websites for search. That's a constant conversation, right? And so I created a 20-minute video to describe how we do that. Now that video has 200 views. It's not got a lot of views. And that's because I'm just sharing it on emails before we have calls with clients, and I'm just sharing it strategically. So I'm using YouTube in my own channel manually in terms of the distribution. Now, if it blows up and it grows in organic search and gets to the top of YouTube for certain specific terms, then yes, I'm going to be very happy. But ultimately, that's not my justification. So that would be my first thing: is for small businesses, what's your reason for doing YouTube videos, right? And is it because you want to build your presence? Do you want to build your authority, like outside of you explaining it to people on calls, or them seeing you in your retail store, or them seeing you on Facebook? If that's the case, then it's a great channel, right? Is it to one day become an influencer to then be able to sell further products and all of those things? Yes, that's a great goal, but it's a long-term goal. So everyone needs a short-term justification. Everyone needs a long-term justification. Yeah. So that's my first kind of, and this is very much a mindset thing. My next thing is, look, yes, you need to be strategic about YouTube. Look, at the moment, so I can tell you all the generic stuff, like you need to do your keyword research. You need to understand what people are searching for on YouTube. You need to understand what you can use tools like YouTube Buddy. You could tools like SEMrush. I don't know if SEMrush does this, but you can use Ahrefs to find out what people are searching for on YouTube. Um, but what I find is when you're launching a channel that way, things get boring really quickly because you're almost looking at the channel mechanically. And Sandeep, you might know this, but I've recently just launched a new channel called How Do You Make Money? And that's just because I've been interested in many years on how businesses make money. It started when I was like 18 years old, and I used to ask my friend, how does his parents make enough money on their corner shop selling sweets
Mm-hmm.
and selling drinks and selling newspapers for pennies? How do they make enough money to make a living to pay off their expenses? And so I thought, hey, why don't I just do a channel around this, because I'm actually interested in it myself. And so I'm just running an experiment. I thought, let me just create a 9-day or 10-day series of interviews with different founders and create content that I'm genuinely interested in. And so your justification might actually be like that. But what I would say is don't look at your channel mechanically. Think about the topics. You can do keyword research, you can do online analysis, you could look at Quora, you could look at Reddit, look at topics that are interesting, but most importantly, look at what you're really engaging with, right? And what you're engaged with. And then start to niche out a particular area that you want your channel to be focused on. And I like the idea of my channel, How Do You Make Money? It's very focused on how do you make money. If you watch one of those videos, it is simply breaking down how they make money, their product, marketing, sales strategy. In your world, Sandeep, you've got a ton of traffic on 99 Signals. I would personally take 10 of your top articles that are gaining traffic and then do a video, maybe a
Mm.
5-10 minute video for each one of them, and put that video at the top for people that want to watch the video instead and just see how that works for you. And then you might
Right.
learn on the back of that. But yeah, research and passion, a combination of those two is
Mm.
where you need to start.
Yeah, that's a very interesting way of looking at it, and I guess some of your videos may be unlisted when you're targeting your say newsletter subscribers. You would probably not want to have a video that is shown publicly, right? In some cases, you would want your video to be unlisted. So, is that what you're doing with some of your videos, or is it all on the public domain?
No, it's all in the public domain. I
It's
mean,
all.
I'm unlisting stuff that I haven't physically published yet. Um,
Okay. Okay. Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, look, if you're looking to leverage search across YouTube as well,
Hmm.
you need to publish it all, unless there's a reason why you need to, unless you've got like a course, it's a
Hmm.
paid course or it's a paid subscription, then yes, you would have a
Right.
reason.
Right.
You would have a reason to do that. But outside of that, you really want to leverage YouTube for its own search engine.
Correct. Yeah.
So in the short term, you're going to send traffic directly. You're going to ask people to go look at this video. In the longer
Hmm.
term, if you've optimized your video as well, then yes, you may have the really good chance. I mean, to be honest, you're sitting on a really good opportunity where you've got blog posts that are ranking really well. And
Hmm.
if you can turn those into videos and host and put videos on those blog posts
Yeah.
physically and embed them,
Hmm.
then I could see your channel doing even better.
Yeah, so I've done that for a few of my videos, and those videos are doing quite well. Like you said, I have a lot of reviews and comparison posts on my blog. So some of them have these videos and they rank even better because you also start ranking in the featured snippet. Now there is a video featured snippet right below the Google search box, right? And I really like the idea of taking the top 10 posts and making a video out of each one of them. And in fact, the one video which has close to 35,000 views now, it's actually a blog post which has been converted into a video, and this was done 2 years back.
Yeah,
That's yeah,
it's
right.
it's definitely time consuming to obviously prepare the videos, but given that you've got the content, now what you want to just turn that content into concise, maybe
Repurpose
concise.
that content. Yeah.
Yeah, repurpose it, maybe reduce it down, make it a concise video, and then the post is the larger in-depth piece that people can go into if they need to.
Very interesting. In your experience, what is you must have come across so many mistakes that people make when it comes to launching their own YouTube channel. What are some of the common mistakes that small businesses and startups in particular make when they start publishing videos on YouTube, and what are the ways they can avoid making these mistakes?
Yeah, I've seen a number of like issues. I've even interviewed people with large channels to get their tips. And here's some common things that people can add to their strategy when they're thinking about YouTube. Number one is around thumbnail. Is making sure that thumbnail, that's the thing people see, is eye catching. Is concise. You want to have a thumbnail with no more than 3 or 4 or 5 words in it. Ideally, your thumbnail text is not your title of the video. Your title of the video can be a lot longer. You want to make your thumbnail more concise and just straight to the point, and then people can look at the title if they're interested in the thumbnail. So that's one thing that it's really going to make a massive difference when people come across your channel. Just like Google search, right? You have your meta title and your meta description to entice the click. Your thumbnail is there to entice the click, right? So that's one thing. Another thing is around using your YouTube description for the video as best as possible. And that's by giving YouTube as much information. So what you want to do is you want to tell Google and YouTube about the video. You want to have your title in there again. You want to have you have a description of the video. Like really go out and the more content, the better. 100 words, 200 words, if you can do, the better. Adding in your keyword, if you've got a keyword, to add it in there in the title, add it in the first couple of lines, integrate it within the content as well. And that's just telling YouTube, hey, this content is about this topic, and this is where you want to really just describe your video as much as possible. You could also do I've forgotten the word actually, but it's where you have timestamps. That's it. You can have timestamps to your video, so you can tell YouTube and users that if you just want to see this heading, this subheading, and you want to get into this, go to this part of the video. And what Google, and I'm sure you've seen it, is you'll see timestamps are ranking in Google. So if someone searched for a particular question, Google will rank the timestamp for that question, which is super cool. And then lastly is, you've got tags on YouTube. So my recommendation, like YouTube's definition of tags, is to capture anyone that's misspelling the thing they're looking for. So if they're looking for productivity tips, but they misspell productivity, then you can add a tag for a common misspelling of productivity. Yeah. And that's YouTube's definition. So yes, you could do that, but I also think you should just add in tags for different variations of people searching for your video in different ways. So if it's about productivity tips, it could also be how to be productive. That could be a tag, right? It could be productivity tips for entrepreneurs, productivity tips for coaches. Those might be different ways of searching. So you want to make sure you add in those tags. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I also wanted to ask you, what's the frequency with which one should upload videos? Does YouTube give you an algorithmic advantage if you say publish a video every 2 weeks or every month or even more frequently? Because YouTubers tend to be much more productive when it comes to launching new videos. So what's the frequency with which people should publish videos?
So Google, YouTube, what they're looking for is people to be on their platform, loyal to their platform and producing content. So there's almost like an initial break, an initial proving your worth period. on YouTube where they want to see you producing content on a regular basis. There is, from speaking to a number of people, there's a number 25 or 30. Someone told me that only when you get to about 25 videos is when you start to see growth on your channel. So you want to get to that 25 or 30 number as quickly as possible. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean 30 videos of 25 minutes each. They could be 2 minutes, 1 minute, 3 minutes. But that's a number that I've heard a number of times. So how do you get there? You want to be publishing. You could be publishing daily. You could be publishing weekly. You want to publish monthly. It's up to you. I would say if you're really looking to grow your channel, doing it monthly is going to be too less. Doing it every 2 weeks is going to be too less. You probably want to get to weekly at least, and then you can see how that goes. So personally, if you can do it even more, then great. At the moment, for how do you make money, I'm doing it daily for the next 9 days, maybe 10 days. And I'm going to see what happens with the channel. And then I've got some ideas, or I might just leave it as that because I ran it as an experiment. But if you're looking for my Your Brand Found channel, I was doing that once a week, I believe, if my memory. I was doing that once a week, and it was great. And I think once a week is a good frequency to start off with without putting yourself under any pressure. But you to batch it. So I was doing 4 or 5 videos in batch, and then I would edit them and then I would schedule them. So as much as possible, your content. If doing one a week stresses you out, don't worry about it. Just get used to using YouTube. Don't worry about the ranking found on YouTube. Like I said, if you can justify the content creation because you're going to share it, on email with potential customers, or you need it because you constantly get that question asked, then don't worry about frequency at this stage. Just get used to publishing on YouTube. I mean, Sandy, maybe we should run a 1-day course. I do this with my team. One day, launch your YouTube channel, create your first video. Maybe we should do something like that in the future. But yeah, that's kind of my advice.
Yeah. I think once you commit to a YouTube channel, you should also commit to making sure that you have enough content out there, so that anyone who visits, I mean, any prospect of yours who visits that channel has enough content to go through, whether it is testimonials or a demo of your product or services. That's really interesting that you put out there, because a lot of small businesses, they just have 1 or 2 videos. I mean, they get really excited about YouTube, and then when they finally do their demo video, they don't get a lot of views, and then they get discouraged, and that's when they stop it. And that's what I've seen a lot of small businesses do. But I think it's really important that they get to their first 25 to 30 videos as quickly as possible. That's a really good advice. Now, I want to talk about sales cycle or sales funnel. Where does YouTube come into the picture in your sales cycle, and what's the best way to use it to optimize your sales cycle or shorten your sales cycle?
So if I've got, and if anyone's got, as part of their sales process, calls with clients, the way I think is I want to reduce the friction on that call. I want to make it a friendly call. I want the customer to understand my experience and expertise in their space, and I want them to feel that they're having a call with a company that they could potentially work with, right? And most importantly is I don't want them to price shop, and I don't want them to compare us to other agencies and other companies from a price perspective. Now, if anyone resonates with any of that and goes, yes, I want to be in that space, then being strategic about your content on YouTube is exactly what you need to do. And so what I do is I understand issues or challenges they're having. I will create content around those issues and challenges. They may be keyword content that people are also searching for on Google. as well, or it may not. But the most important thing is to understand your audience, to understand your prospects and what are they challenged with, and making sure that you can reassure them and answer all of those things that I just described before the call. And the way I do that is I will schedule the call, and in advance I'll say, hey, looking forward to our conversation. I know you're looking for help with this, so here's a quick video for you to watch before we jump on the call. Sometimes I don't know their particular challenge, so I may have the call and then I'll send it to them afterwards, and I'll make sure we have a great call, and then I'll send the video to them afterwards. And what that does is it takes you outside of this whole kind of sales call and making the call sound salesy to actually, hey, I know you need some help here. Them starting to trust you, like you, because they've seen your video, they've seen your content. A video is a lot more engaging than a blog post. Blog posts are great, but videos really just take the intimacy level to a whole new level. So if you want to do that, you just follow that method, create content that engages your future customers, and then you share it with them. And that honestly is just, for me in my business, it's just really worked for us, because we don't need to work as hard to win the customers that are in touch with us. It becomes a lot more friendlier, a lot more just conversation based as opposed to sales persuasive based.
Got it. Once you have published your videos, right? I mean, once you have a set of 25 to 30 videos on your channel, how do you go about using the same content or repurposing the same content that you've created on YouTube across multiple channels? What's the best way to leverage that?
Yeah, so I don't wait to get 25 or 30, by the way. I'm just saying that as for something that people should just be aware of. But as soon as I've published a video, I will, for my Your Brand fan channel, my content kind of maximization strategy was I would create a blog post out of the video, and then I would also create social copy, so Instagram, content for Twitter, LinkedIn, and I would share that across the board. Interestingly, I actually had a friend who I've known for years, who used to live in London here, and then and we used to work together in Accenture. And he's been a friend of mine for many years. He was on my LinkedIn for many years, and I actually didn't know what he was doing. But he moved back to India, and he started a company, and now they're about 100 people plus. And I had no idea. But he saw one of my videos on LinkedIn, because I shared it, of course, on LinkedIn, and he messaged me. He said, "Hey, Neil, we actually need your help." So you never really know where your customers come from or who's watching. The most important thing is to control and manage what's in your control. And so in your control is to create content on YouTube and to share it across all the channels and all the, and I would say do that. And don't be disappointed because you never know who's watching. But make sure when you're sharing on those social channels that you think about the channel as its own channel. Don't just go, I'm just going to share this video on this channel because it's quick, easy to do. If it's Twitter, think about the Twitter audience. They want to see concise content. They might want to see some emojis. They might want to know why, and they should see that video. They might, numbers, statistics do well. Whatever you can do, share it, natively, as if you're natively sharing on that channel.
Yeah. No, that's a really important point that you brought up, that repurposing should happen, but you should give each channel the respect that it deserves. Even when it comes to repurposing your blog posts, you can't copy paste the same thing onto Medium or LinkedIn Publish, because they have different audiences, and you have to treat each channel natively. And that's why native content is so important, especially on Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. I don't know how many marketers use TikTok aside from Gary Vee, but not a lot of marketers that I know use TikTok. But yeah, all the emerging channels, you should give them the respect that they deserve. And when you're repurposing your videos, I guess that's really important. You should keep the audience in mind, and you should make sure that your content is aligned with that. A lot of my listeners, Neil, are small business owners, and they would be really fascinated to hear your take on starting their own YouTube channel, because YouTube is a channel, at least in India, it's not been leveraged that much by small business owners. My wife has her own small business. It's a healthy food startup, and it's less than a year old. And while she's getting a lot of traction on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, YouTube is something that that has really not been in her marketing flywheel so far. And there's so many listeners out there who are listening to this podcast who would be wondering how they can leverage YouTube to either shorten their sales cycle or educate their audience. So for all of them, do you have a final piece of advice?
Yeah, my advice is to shorten the sales cycle. YouTube is amazing, right? Because it's so short term. You will see the benefits, especially for service-based businesses. You will see the benefits almost immediately because you can create a video, you can share it before sales calls or conversations, and honestly, the conversation turns as long as your video is good, right? And as long as um, your video's action, it's not slow and disengaging. You want to make sure you get to what they're interested in, you solve their problem, you give them advice, and then it's active, as you can tell from my voice right now, as opposed to, "Hi, this is Sandeep. I'm trying to. I would like to have." You want to avoid that. So the more you do, the better you'll get. Don't overthink it. I think it's important for entrepreneurs or small businesses. Listen to this. Thinking about YouTube, publish you know content consistently and start sharing it with the world. And what you'll notice is you'll realize yourself where the problems are and where you can improve. And being active is just one advice, right? Another piece of quick advice here is um, to ask for people to follow and subscribe, to ask people to do things, add a comment, like this video. That just adds some engagement. YouTube likes engagement. It likes proof that people like your video. So if you can do that, I mean, you could also hack the system, right? You can get your family and friends to go do it. We all have to start somewhere. So if you can hack the system somewhere to try and get some engagement, go ahead and do it. But don't go onto Fiverr and go buy, 1,000 likes or 5,000 likes. Please don't do that. That does not benefit anyone. But just make sure you've got your mindset right. Like, don't jump onto YouTube saying, I'm trying to get 1,000 views within a week for this video. Don't go into that. If you get it, it's a bonus. But going into that with a mindset for a short-term goals and long-term goals. And I gave you in this interview some examples. And if you've got that, then you're going to be consistent. And that's the goal to YouTube, is to produce and publish over a set amount of time, and then you'll start to realize yourself how you can improve it. Like, it's very much an organic process. It's a self-discovery process more than anything, and these tips will help you, but also be open to discovering how you want your channel to grow and where you want it to go.
Right. Self experimentation is the key, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Neil, for being a part of this show. And thank you for educating us on YouTube. And there were some really interesting tips that we got to learn from you. And I wish you all the best for your upcoming content marketing service. And I hope we can do this in the future as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sandeep. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And for asking me the great questions and putting me on the spot here. So I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I can't wait to do this again and see you fly on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, I just subscribed to your YouTube channel, the new YouTube channel that you started.
Yeah.
How to make money, or how do you make money? So I look forward to listening to some of the interviews out there. Thank you so much, Neil, and yeah, I hope we can do this again.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks, Sandeep.
Yeah, thank you.
Marketing Mantra with Sandeep Mallya is a podcast by 99 Signals, a place to find top-notch content on a wide range of online marketing topics. To get started, visit 99signals.com/best to check out all the top-rated articles on the blog, or simply view the description of each episode to download free online marketing resources to level up your marketing skills. You can rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts, and you might find your review featured on a future episode. Got a question or topic suggestion for Sandeep? Simply send a voice message via Anchor app or send an email to podcast@99signals.com. It too could be featured on a future episode. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to Marketing Mantra on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or any major podcast player.